In many ways, it would seem that Western Europe, along with Canada and probably Australia, are seated farther up on the crazy train. And, that's probably true. But the important point is that we're all on the same train, headed over the same precipice and down into the same dark depths. To peer then over our northern border or across the ocean, it's to look at our immediate future. It's like looking into a crystal ball. And that's why this story, which hasn't gotten very much attention in this country, ought to get some attention, ought to give us pause. Today's world is pretty scary, at least it can be. Too many people don't seem to care about the truth, about moral standards. All that is flown out the window. And I'd argue that all of that is rooted in people becoming less religious. That's why it's more important than ever that we take a step back from all this craziness and keep our relationship with God strong and intact. The best way to do that is by praying every day with Hallow. Hallow is the #1 Christian prayer app in the U.S. It's like Calm or Headspace, but it's rooted in Catholic faith as opposed to the religion of leftism. Hallow offers over 5,000 audio-guided prayers, meditations, and Christian music tracks. Some of the most popular prayers include the Daily Rosary, the Gospel Reading, the Daily Psalm with Bishop Barron, also the Bible in a Year with Father Mike Schmitz. And there's prayers by some names and voices you might recognize, like Mark Wahlberg, Mario Lopez, Jim Caviezel. They've got minute meditations. They got meditations for sleep. They've got, really importantly, kid prayer and meditation as well. Hallow helps me find my peace and calm throughout the day, helps me sleep better, lower my anxiety levels, and teach my kids not to be terrible humans on top of it. So let Hallow become your source of peace and strengthen your faith today. Go to hallow.com/Matt Walsh or text PRAY to 1-855-944-5684 and get an extended 3-month free trial, during which you'll have access to all 5,000 plus meditations and prayers. That's hallow.com/Matt Walsh or text PRAY to 1-855-944-5684 for 3 months free. Reclaim your peace in this crazy world. Download Hallow today. The Daily Mail reported this week, they report an Army veteran was arrested by police for causing anxiety after retweeting a picture of a swastika made out of pride flags on social media. Darren Brady, 51, has slammed Hampshire police for impeding his right to free speech after he was placed in handcuffs on Friday at his home in Aldershot for sharing a meme. Footage of the arrest was widely shared on social media and showed an officer who told Mr. Brady he was being apprehended because his post had caused anxiety and been reported to authorities. The image Mr. Brady retweeted was of a swastika that had been digitally manipulated and was made out of 4 LGBT pride flags. Well, clearly the best way to disprove the point he was making with the swastika meme is to arrest him for posting it. Certainly not it's not as though such a response exactly demonstrates the very thing the meme was commenting on. But I think you need to hear, you heard the reason there about anxiety, but you need to hear it for yourself. The British police officer explaining this as he's making the arrest. So here's the footage now. Watch.
Which Hampshire police would realise how ridiculous this is.
It is ridiculous.
It is. Well, good. I'm glad to come to this.
What did it need to come to?
Tell us why you escalated it to this level. Because I don't understand. I posted something that he posted. You come to arrest me. You don't arrest him. Why has it come to this? Why am I in cuffs? Because there's something he shared, then I shared.
Because someone has been caused, obviously, anxiety based upon your social media post. That's the reason why you've been arrested.
Someone has been caused anxiety by your social media post. You're in handcuffs and will be carted to jail because your meme made somebody anxious. My favorite thing is the tone the officer uses. He says, well, obviously, someone has been caused anxiety. It's obvious. Of course he's going to arrest you for creating anxiety in the precious, fragile mind of some gender non-conforming person. Obviously. What else is he going to do? What to the sane among us seems utterly insane and totally beyond the bounds of reason is to him self-evident and uncontroversial. Well, this is no surprise coming from a British police officer. After all, these are the people just recently, a few weeks ago, caught on film in uniform dancing at a gay pride rally. Let's see that. That's some real police work there. Now, I suppose we have no room to laugh over here in the States. We've seen cops in this country kneel in submission at BLM rallies. So basically the same sort of thing. And we especially cannot laugh because we are fast approaching the day when a meme critical of the trans agenda will result in more than just a Twitter suspension. Soon, we're going to see people getting carted away in handcuffs too. And it will happen. It's going to happen, and soon. And that move will begin, if Biden has anything to say about it, on college campuses with this administration's proposed changes to Title IX. Like we talked about when the proposal was first published a little while ago, Biden wants to change Title IX not only to give men the unquestioned right to access any female facility or sports team anywhere they want without impediment, but also to make it a legal violation, as the British police officer says, to cause anxiety to a protected class of people. There was a lawyer named Cece O'Leary who recently explained the changes at a Heritage Foundation event, and she explained that under the current Title IX guidelines, a student or staff member at a university could be considered in violation if they engage in harassment, verbal harassment, that is severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive. That's the current rule as it stands. Now, there are obviously problems, even with the rule as it stands, potential problems, but it does create a relatively high bar. Okay, if you want to get someone kicked off campus for harassing you, you have to prove that what they're saying was offensive and pervasive and severe, all three of those things, which means that you can't hear something that somebody says that offends you one time and then get the person kicked out of school. You have to prove that you were harassed in a way that was severe and pervasive and personal towards you. But as O'Leary explains, Biden wants to change the and to an or. So it's not severe and pervasive, it's severe or pervasive. And that will have absolutely devastating effects for free speech on campus, obviously by design. Let's listen to her explain it.
Speech that would be severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive would be a man calling a woman a derogatory name. He says it, and we all agree that it's a bad name. He says it over and over again, and it causes her to maybe fear for her physical safety. Maybe he's shouting it at her as he's running after her. That would be harassment. Or maybe he's saying it over and over and over again in class to the point where she does not feel safe going to class anymore. That would be harassment under the current rule. Under the proposed change to the rule, it would just be saying a comment about, it would be misgendering somebody. It would be saying the wrong pronoun that person does not identify with. Under the new rule, that person could find that comment severe, period. And they could report you, and the college could find you guilty of harassment. So under this new proposed change to Title IX, we are worried that students are going to have their speech chilled even more than it already is. Students are going to be deterred from ever speaking up and saying anything because they risk, especially conservative students, will risk their views being targeted and being punished now on their campus. So, a concrete example of this could be you want to host a conservative speaker. Let's say you want to have Matt Walsh come onto campus and debate somebody. Under these new changes to Title IX, you might not be able to do that because Matt Walsh could be labeled a harassing figure, and this is harassing speech, and therefore the college will not allow him to come onto campus. So there are definitely some serious concerns here with this Title IX change, and there are other concerns as well that I'm sure my co-panelists can speak to.
Well, of course you want to keep that unsavory character off your campus, but generally the groundwork is already laid here. The foundation has long since been excavated. Now all the tyrants have to do is start building on the work they've already done. To say something that somebody in a privileged class doesn't like, to make them uncomfortable, whether intentionally or not, is to commit harassment. And harassment is a violation on college campuses. Harassment is a crime, actually. Criminals get arrested. So you see how the dots connect. It's not very hard to see. But in fact, the foundations for this kind of words are violence idea, the foundation goes further back and is deeper than most people realize. If you have heeded my many recommendations to read Carl Trueman's book, The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self, then you'll know that this is all the consequence of what other philosophers have dubbed living in the age of the psychological man or the expressive individual. Now, for most of human history, as Trueman talks about in his book, human beings found meaning and purpose through external realities. happiness and fulfillment could be found in the ways that we are situated within stable structures like the family, the community, the church, your country, right? Individuals define themselves by these relationships and these roles. If you had gone to a person, at any point before modern times and asked them to tell you about themselves, they would have immediately started talking about the roles that they play. They would have identified that, well, I'm a father. I do this for a living. Like that's how they would have identified themselves. They probably would have listing their faith probably first and foremost. But that's all changed in the modern age. Now individuals are encouraged to find meaning inside themselves. As Truman wrote in an essay on this subject a couple of years ago, this is the notion that human flourishing is found primarily in an inner sense of well-being, that authenticity is found by being able to act outwardly as one feels inwardly, and that who we are is largely a matter of personal choice, not external imposition. And of course, I would add that the rejection of external imposition includes biology and nature, because we're now meant to believe that even nature, even God, cannot impose on us any definition of our true selves. Nobody decides who or what we are. Nobody and nothing. It's totally up to us. This is entirely determined by our own egos, and our ego is where we live. We are absorbed within it, barely coming up for air. This shift in the way that human beings see themselves, this transformation or degradation, as the case may be, in the very definition of selfhood, is what explains nearly everything that we're seeing happen around us. And it's what has led, and will continue to lead, to the forcible suppression of many kinds of speech, especially speech that causes someone to question their inner experience of their own selfhood, right? Speech that causes, as the police officer said, anxiety. Since your inner self is all that matters, since it's the truest version of yourself, then speech which interferes with it becomes a form of violence. It's murder, in effect. And that's why the enemies of free speech can stamp out free speech wherever they find it, while claiming and actually believing that they cherish free speech. They could be on this crusade to utterly destroy free speech while telling themselves and everybody else and being deluded enough to actually believe that they cherish the very thing that they're destroying. Because in their minds, what they're attacking isn't speech. It's violence, it's assault, it's murder. Maybe not physically, but internally. And as we've seen, the internal is all that matters. And that's what's happening. Well, if you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to get more content like it. If you're craving more content, go watch or listen to my full show at dailywire.com, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.